Expected value is a new topic on the ACT Math. Shows up in the new Red Book a few times. Definitely worth talking about, definitely worth taking a look at. Now, these problems work by intimidation. They often feature really complicated math language, or they're a really nasty looking word problem where you don't know where to start. But the problems all work the same. And the other really tricky part about this, I think, is that you don't use the math that you really associate with probabilities. What this really is a weighted average. Now, the concepts are the same, so let's talk about the concepts first. Probabilities work this way. There's a fixed number of outcomes, right? If you flip a coin, it can either be heads or tails, 2 outcomes. You roll the dice, it can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 outcomes. But those outcomes are all equally likely, right? It's a 50-50 on a coin toss. It's 1 in 6 on a dice roll. In this case, we have a fixed set of things that are discrete, right? We can't have 1.31. We can't have 2.678, 1, 2. But the likelihood of each of these is different. So it's somewhat more likely that we get a 1 or a 5 than a 4. It's somewhat unlikely to get a 4. Now, expected value kind of gives you the idea of what you'd get if you did this a whole bunch of times, like a whole bunch of these experiments. It doesn't usually spit out an actual outcome. It spits out some sort of decimal answer. So it doesn't really tell you what's the future. It tells you if you did this a whole bunch of times and averaged all those together, you get this, roughly. So to calculate it, we just do the weighted average, where in this case we don't have frequencies, right? We don't have a big number to add up and divide by. We just multiply by the percents. Value times percent. Value times percent. Now that you got that, you just add them up. But before we do that, let's talk for a minute about this last one. It exceeds 1. So as you know, probability is kind of capped at 1. Can't ever be more than 100% likely that something will happen. It's okay, though, that this is greater than 1 because we're no longer talking about a probability. We're talking about a value. So adding these together will give my weighted average, which is our expected value. So 0.3 plus 0.3 is 0.6, plus 0.6 is 1.2, plus 0.2 is 1.4, plus 1.5 is 2.9. And that's all there is to it. Check out the video and this section on weighted averages. You'll also see problems like this in the data section. So this is exactly like a frequency table, except it's kind of one step farther. They went ahead and calculated the percent or the probability for you. Take a look at those other sections.